this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. XRP holders have been under attack since the inception of XRP and the XRP ledger over a decade ago, but unquestionably, that's been amped up recently, hasn't it? Especially when XRP started rocketing in price in November, but then it got even worse just several days ago when President Trump signed an executive order to put a team together to look into having a national stockpile of digital assets. So it wasn't a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which is what the toxic Bitcoin maximalist one coin to rule them all, and a special treatment for one coin. It wasn't that. From Trump on down, what this administration is engaging in is thoughtful, logical, critical thinking as it pertains to crypto. And they're going to look into putting, who knows, multiple coins in, perhaps even XRP, into a national stockpile as a reserve asset, which is really cool stuff. Now, that really, my God, talk about, I've never seen people so butthurt over something. It's astonishing the degree to which these little baby back biatches in the Bitcoin community have been just crying up a storm, lying, screaming, throwing tantrums on the Webernets, typing stupid stuff with their fat little fingers. And I want to give you some ammo, some argumentative style ammo here. I've got, I'm going to share with you, this is just interesting stuff anyway, but I'm going to share with you a thread between a toxic Bitcoin maximalist and David Schwartz, who is a literal genius, by the way. And he's, of course, Ripple's CTO, and he's also a co-creator of XRP and the XRP ledger. And I'm going to let him just drop the science on everybody, because he just did, like, it's very clear he got just as fed up with all this nonsense as everybody else. I'm not saying he was, like, being emotional or anything like that, but he was irritated enough by this nonsense they've been spewing that he took the time to share a lot of information. And I'm going to share it with you because it's valuable, and it'll give you the knowledge to fight back, you know, aka the ammo to fight back against people who have stupid arguments. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so let's jump into this thread. It was started by Pierre Rochard, and I'm thinking of a different word that rhymes with his last name that maybe I'll hold back. I don't know if the YouTube algorithm would like it too much, but I'm thinking of a particular word that rhymes with that last name. Pierre Rochard, And this guy, he's got some heavy Bitcoin bags, let's say. He's the VP of Research at Riot Platforms, which is a very large Bitcoin miner. So he's ridiculously biased. Now, I'm biased too, but I'm biased in favor of XRP because I have heavy XRP bags, right? But the thing is, despite being biased, I am always going to operate in good faith. And whether something is good or bad about XRP and the XRP ecosystem, I'm going to say it if it's true. That's that. Pierre Rochard, the fill in the blank, he just is happy to lie. He's very content to lie. He doesn't seem like a stupid person. He seems like a liar. I think that my guess is that there would be malice. He's ridiculously biased, so all of that would make sense. Can't know for sure. Maybe he literally just doesn't know this, but he's been corrected so many damn times, I think there's about a 0% chance of that. So here's what he starts arguing, and David Schwartz jumps in. A literal genius jumps in and just destroys this. So check this out. Pierre Rochard, the fill in the blank, excuse me, Ripple can trivially fork the XRP ledger software and add trillions more XRP or remove the escrow locks. Ripple wrote up a fake narrative of decentralization. There are no alternative publishers. It's just a shell game of Ripple affiliates. Now, of course, this is stupid, and I've talked about this many times over the years as I've seen all sorts of toxic Bitcoin maximalists make similar arguments, but you can't force anyone to run new code. You just can't. So you can create a fork of any blockchain. You absolutely can, including Bitcoin. Like, I could fork Bitcoin, and I could have code that's modified to state that I've got a million Bitcoin. I just own it. There it is. I could create more Bitcoin. But if nobody's going to run the same computer code as me, does it matter? No. No, it does not. So here's what David Schwartz wrote. And anyone can trivially fork the Bitcoin software to remove the 21 million Bitcoin limit. That's how decentralized systems work. Anyone can change them for any and only people who choose to run the changed code. Exactly. You can change the code and do whatever the hell you want. You listening to this can do that. But if you're not going to get the rest of the world to run that same code, it effectively doesn't matter, does it? So ridiculous. So imagine somebody did change the code for the XRP ledger to do those things that he cited, and Ripple adds trillions more XRP. What validator operated in the space is just going to run that code? Who's going to do that and why? How stupid would they have to be? Are you kidding me? And Ripple, mind you, they run one validator right now. They have no special powers or permissions over the XRP ledger. They can't do that. They can't do any of that. I mean, sure, they can fork something, but nobody's going to use it. So anyway, Pierre Rochard, the fill in the blank, said they would be on an altcoin fork, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't have UNL with trusted publisher Ripple/XRP does. Your only defense was a weak whataboutism. Okay, so that's stupid as hell. Yeah, so each validator runs their own UNL, which is unique nodeless, and so you decide who to trust within the ecosystem. And that's kind of important. Just like you're not forced within the Bitcoin system to trust anybody that creates new code. Like if I come in and create new code that says, hey, here's the real number of Bitcoin, it just doubled. You don't have to run that code. You don't have to trust them. And so in having a UNL, a unique nodeless, if somebody starts doing some dumbass stuff and trying to change the code, you just don't listen to them. You decide who you listen to if you're a validator. It's a brilliant system that's worked well for over a decade, and he's acting as though it's a problem. He's pretending as though that means that Ripple has power, and none of that makes sense. David Schwartz responded and wrote, that's nonsense. When the Bitcoin/Bitcoin Cash split happened, it was the market that decided which side was the miner fork and which was Bitcoin. When ETH changed its rules after the DAO hack, it was the market that decided which side was still Ethereum. It's always the market that decides. Now that's spot on, and I don't think enough of people appreciate what that means. In 2017, when there was a fork, and this is months before I jumped into the world of crypto, I think it was June or July, if memory serves, of 2017, and I jumped in November 2017. There was a fork, and there were disputes over block size, this and that, and as a result, a new cryptocurrency was created, Bitcoin Cash. But if people liked the actual technical attributes of Bitcoin Cash, you know what they could have done? They could have decided that what we now know as Bitcoin Cash is actually the real Bitcoin. They could have just called it Bitcoin, and they could have just kept it in all of the exchanges the world over as that, and then the code would have been a little bit different. And that's if that's what society said Bitcoin was, then that's what would have happened. How do I know that? Well, because it happened with Ethereum. Did you know that Ethereum is not the original Ethereum? The original Ethereum, there was a fork, and the original Ethereum is now called Ethereum Classic. That's right, the original Ethereum was renamed when there was a fork. And now the new Ethereum, if you want to call it that was modified, that's called Ethereum. It hijacked the name effectively. So it's consensus. It's whatever the world decides, and that's fine. Nobody's going to dispute that Ethereum is not Ethereum. No, it is, because people the world over says, yeah, that makes sense. That's what it is. It's about the market participants. And so just as easily, people could have decided that what we now know as Bitcoin, they could have called that Bitcoin Classic. They could have. And then the new Bitcoin, instead of being called Bitcoin Cash, it could just be Bitcoin. It absolutely could be. Now, it's not, because the market didn't decide that. But that's the way decentralized systems work. It's what the people want. That's what happens. Now, Pierre Rochard, the fill-in-the-blank, he responded with the following. No, it wasn't. Obviously, if you kept your node running, you were on the Bitcoin side. Ethereum is centralized, so it does show what will happen with XRP when Ripple decides to print trillions of XRP for itself. Thank you for proving my point, David. Well done. Okay, so let me just ask you, listening to this, if you see in the news that Ripple forks the XRP ledger, and they're like, hey, there's trillions of more XRP now, would you continue to participate in that chain? Or would you just stick with the one that doesn't have the change? The one like it is now that's already been adopted, and it's on all sorts of exchanges the world over. Which one would you do? You'd pick the one that they're not messing with, wouldn't you? Right. Exactly. That's why this is such a disingenuous, bogus argument. Ripple could just do so-and-so. And people that are new to crypto might fall for this stuff, but it's bogus nonsense. Here you have Vet jumping in the conversation. Vet has entered the chat. He happens to be an XRP Ledger DUNL validator, default UNL validator. And Here's what he had to say. Disingenuous, and he would know a little something. He is a validator. Disingenuous. You can't print trillions, just like you can't print trillions on Bitcoin without changing the software. And if you do so, it only applies to you and those who got the change. Again, absolutely. That's why you decide who you trust. And that's another reason that, you can't have somebody spin up like 40,000 validators on the XRP ledger and then just hijack everything. Because if somebody tries to do that and they're just acting malicious, you just don't listen to them. And so it wouldn't matter. It literally wouldn't matter. Like, you can't hijack the system. That's the reason it's worked for over a decade. And so then Pierre Rochard, the fill in the blank, said, unless you're Ripple and can pressure the whole ecosystem with incentives, that's their business model. This one made me laugh, and David Schwartz knocked this out of the park. He wrote back and said, that's how every decentralized system works. Anyone can use money, arguments, threats, laws, or any other method they want in an attempt to pressure participants to change the system's rules to their advantage. Spot on! That's exactly correct. In a decentralized system, you can do it, and you can have lobbyists, and you can do whatever you want from the legal side. You can go to Congress. You can do whatever you want to try and persuade people. And you get different outcomes based on various efforts. Just like I said, Bitcoin, when that forked, Bitcoin didn't become Bitcoin Classic. No. The fork just resulted in Bitcoin Cash. But what if people lobbied really hard and were successful? Well, then Bitcoin Cash would be Bitcoin, and Bitcoin as we know it today would just be Bitcoin Classic. Similarly, if the people running the Ethereum chain back in the day, if they had been successful, they had sufficient, any of those things, whether it's threats, laws, any of those things, money to sway this, then Ethereum Classic, maybe it would still be known as Ethereum today. Who knows? And then Ethereum, maybe the one that we know as Ethereum, instead of being what we now accept as Ethereum, maybe that would have been Ethereum Cash. Who knows? It could have been anything. Ethereum 2.0, the amazing sequel. I don't give a damn. So obviously that's how this works. And this Pierre guy, there's no way he doesn't know this. I can't fathom that. To be at that position at a company that does Bitcoin mining, and there's a big company, there's no way he doesn't know this. And in fact, his response says it all. He wrote back to David Schwartz and said, Ripple isn't just anyone in the XRP ecosystem, but nice try. White dude for Kamala. So just irrelevant. So he clearly lost the argument here. And so he just decided to go in for the dig. Ripple isn't just anyone? Okay, I don't know. Is MicroStrategy just anyone? Because they got boatloads of cash and they can do all sorts of things to sway perspective on a global scale as it pertains to Bitcoin. What the hell is your freaking argument? It's a decentralized system. And I don't care how much money Ripple has. If they try to do stuff like that, we, as XRP holders and all of the validators, we wouldn't listen because that wouldn't be in our interest. Would it? It doesn't matter how much money they have. They can't force that crap on us. In fact, Ripple has pushed for amendment changes and failed because they don't have that type of power. And so there's an XRP community member who saw that exchange and he pretty much called it out. This is correct. He wrote to Pierre and said, injecting petty comments like white dude for Kamala that bears no relevance to the debate is an indicator of acknowledgement that you have lost the debate. Unfortunately, it's masked in denial and pettiness. Thanks for playing, chump. That's spot on. He didn't respond to the assertion David Schwartz made because he knows David Schwartz is correct and there's nothing else he could do. He lost because he's incorrect. These are the people we're working with, and now you have some additional ammo. Let's go a little bit further, though. There's this long post I was referencing towards the beginning part of the video. I just want to read through this real quick because it's definitely informational. So David Schwartz wrote this up the other day, and he wrote, for about the 400th time, for anyone who doesn't understand what validators do, XRPL actually has a consensus algorithm that actually reaches an agreed consensus. About every 5 seconds, every node participates in a process to decide how to resolve the double spend problem for XRPL transactions. Honest participants should have no reason to care how this is resolved because honest participants don't double spend. But everyone does need some resolution because without a way to solve the double spend problem, disagreement over who holds what would eventually destroy the system. This is precisely why Bitcoin needs proof of work, to ensure eventual agreement over which of a set of conflicting transactions to rely on. So I will pause to note that is absolutely true, of course. It doesn't matter what order the transactions occur on the XRP ledger. All that matters is that valid transactions actually go through. And given that we're on a globe and there's going to be technological delays for communication, like if imagine you're trying to speak to somebody on the phone and they're literally on the other side of the planet, there's going to be a little bit of a delay. Well, same if if it's on a computer network. If you're trying to come to consensus, if somebody's transacting on the other side of the world, then you may have various validators that are going to see transactions come in different orders. But it doesn't matter because, you just need to have sufficient overlap. That's where the 80% overlap comes in. And so if as long as you have that, you can make forward progress. And then if a validator thought that one transaction should have been one ledger sooner than the next, then but every other validator saw, no, it should be the first. Well, then it gets pushed back to the next ledger, which means it'll take an extra 3 to 5 seconds. It doesn't matter. It's effectively real time. It does not matter. That's the point. And so anyway, David Schwartz continues. He says, XRPL validators are not paid and cannot censor valid transactions. The only threat is if many validators conspire to fail to reach agreement, breaking the ledger. To protect against this threat, each node decides which other nodes it will try to solve the double spend problem with. The consensus algorithm has 2 results for any given transaction. Yes, we will include this transaction in the ledger if valid, and no, we will include this transaction in the next ledger if valid. There is no way for an honest node to agree not to execute a valid transaction. Why would any honest node ever agree not to execute a valid transaction? Recovery for valid transactions that do not get yes votes is deterministic. This cheaper, faster, and more censorship resistant than proof of work. But it does have 2 disadvantages. Number 1, because it is not adversarial and is based on the idea that all honest participants are aligned in wanting to execute only valid transactions with maximal forward progress. It cannot be used to do the initial distribution of a token. Of course, now that doesn't matter. All the XRP in existence, of course, does exist, but you could view it as a drawback at the outset. Fair enough. Then it says number 2, it does benefit from as much agreement as possible on who will participate actively on the double spend resolution process. The logic of the UNL is that good validators will accumulate and bad validators will rapidly get excluded. Validators aren't compensated, so there's nothing to fight over. Validators and consensus are not the XRP ledger's governance mechanism. The XRP ledger's governance mechanism is the rules enforced by the nodes participants run. Golf clap for David Schwartz, everyone. Knocking it out of the park per usual. And now you know. And knowledge is power. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.